Okay, everyone, well, welcome to the first afternoon session of the Transformations 2023 conference. And it's a very great pleasure for me. I'm Jonathan Spire, and I'm the editor of Middle East Quarterly currently, and also the director of research at Middle East Forum. And it's a very great pleasure and honor for me to introduce the speaker for this session, which is Mrs. Sinam Sherkany Mohamad. And Sinam is the representative of the Syrian Democratic Council, SDC mission here in the USA and here in Washington, D.C. Just a brief introduction. She's a senior diplomat of the Autonomous Administration of Northeast Syria, and she serves on the SDC Presidential Council. And Mrs. Mohamad has been a leading advocate for women's rights in Syria for more than 2 decades. I first met her, we were just recalling, when she was running the European mission of SDC a few years ago. She's a graduate of the University of Aleppo. I believe that she grew up in Aleppo and was born in Damascus. So the way this is going to work is that I'm going to ask Sinam a couple of questions, and she's going to respond for as long as she wishes. And hopefully this will be very informative for all of us. So the first question, Sinam, that I'd like to ask you is really quite a general one. Really, how would you assess and see the current situation in Syria? What should we be noticing or paying attention to with regard to developments in Syria at the present time?
Thank you so much. Should I use the mic?
You should have the microphone on.
Okay.
You should be audible. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much. It's my pleasure. Louder?
Yeah.
Okay. It's my pleasure today to be here to talk about the most important issue nowadays in the Middle East, the problem and the crisis of Syria. I'm Sinam Mohamad from the northwest Syria, originally from Afrin, the small Kurdish city. I was born in Damascus, but I grew up in many Syrian cities. I studied in the Christian schools during my first, till the high school. I graduated from the University of Aleppo from English Literature Department. As you know now, the problem or the crisis of Syria started in 2011. When it started, many of the Syrian people, they were inspired that they will achieve something. We will have our freedom, democracy, as all the people the Western country have, and plurality. Syria is like multi, we can say, nations and religions. It is diverse. In Syria, you can see the Arabs, Kurdish people, Syriac Christians. We can see even the Aramaic, Durzis, Alawites, Sunnis, Christian, Muslim, and so on. This diverse, we see the domination of the Ba'ath Party, which is very nationalistic, and denying the other rights of the people, especially the Kurdish people, which is the second, let us say, great minority in Syria. Kurdish people has about more than 3 million people living in the north and northwest, east and northwest of Syria. So all the people in Syria, they saw that we can do something. Unfortunately, with the interfering of many regional countries in the Syrian crisis, Turkey, Iranian, Russians, all they interfere in the Syrian crisis and started to have very radical extremist group coming to Syria. And they were saying that we are rebellions and we have to build a new Syria which depends as a, let us say, Islamic State, which is not our goal. Our goal to have a pluralistic Syria, democratic Syria, the unity through diversity which we have it, not to have only the Islamic State. So we are, in this case, we replace the Assad and we will have the others in the authoritarians to have the Islamic, and which is not the dream of the Syrian people they wanted to. So for that we can see in Syria, it has been divided now. If we look at the Syrian map, you can see the red color, which is now under the control of the Syrian government. You can see the yellow color, which is under the control of the Syrian Democratic Forces, which I represent here the political wing of it, Northeast Syria. And the green color, which you can say it is under the control of Turkey, has been occupied by Turkey, and the people, original people of this region has been displaced. If we look at the northwest of it, Afrin, it is my home city, hometown. 2018 has been occupied by Turkey. 300,000 of the people of Afrin, Kurdish people, they've been displaced. And now they are living in the camp, as well as my family. My family has been displaced now. None of them can stay there because they will be killed or arrested. So the people who is now governing the Afrin city, many multi-military groups, extremist, Islamist group. Very nationalistic, extremist Islamic group, they are controlling my city. Occupying the people territories. They occupied my properties in Afrin. They occupied everything there. I'm not able now, I don't have anything. After, your life, you're building your life there, and you have made a lot of issues there. Like factories, business, everything has gone. Why? Because I'm Kurdish, I'm working here and advocating for democracy, which they don't like it. So now, we have now 300,000 displaced from the city of Afrin. Demography changing has happened. Afrin is a Kurdish city. 98% were Kurds. Now, we have 22% only Kurds. Imagine. So they are changing the demography of Afrin, as well they are changing the demography of all the green area, which is, you can see here. So they built their own system, based on the extremism, and this is what happened.
Can I come in there and ask you a question, Sinam, regarding this situation and where things may be heading? As we're all following closely in the media, the Assad regime is currently returning to the mainstream of acceptability, first of all in the Arab world, and very possibly also quite soon, even regarding the international community. What does that mean for the Syrian Democratic Council and for the de facto authority which you represent here, which controls now roughly 30% of Syria, as we can see on the map? What does that mean for the future of your authority?
Yeah, it is a very important question, actually. The yellow area which we control now, it's called the Autonomous Administration Area of North and East Syria. There is a government there providing services for about more than 5 million people. Not only Kurds, Arabs, Syriac, Christians, Kurds, Armenian, Turkmen, all who is living in the northeast Syria, the yellow area, is governed now by the autonomous administration. The autonomous administration, it is not only Kurdish people who is ruling there. We have the plurality, we have the diversity, and we have the co-chair, like we Christians, Syriac, Arab, and Kurd. They are running this area together. So we prefer to work together in the northeast Syria as Kurd and Arab and Syriac, Christian, and so on, either than to fight each other. We have here multi-colors, multi-religions, multi-nations. In this area, we build our system based on equal genders. Imagine we have the participation of the women about 50% in all the institutions, which is not there in any other area now. In the green area, the woman has been neglected because it is, extremists. They don't believe in women power. We have the freedom of religions. The Christians, the Muslims, Sunni, whatever, you have the freedom of religions. Whereas in the other region, in the green area, you have one religion, one color, Islamic, finished. None of them, the Yazidi has been persecuted and have been forced to be Muslim or to leave. And this is what happened. So such a model in the northeast Syria, we want to be inspiring all the Syrians in all over Syria. We worked through 13 years on this project. Now, we see that the government, Syrian government, with the normalizing with the Arab countries, going back to the Arab leagues, for us, we don't, see, maybe we want to end the suffering of the Syrian people. Syrian people suffered a lot through 13 years ago. Economy is very bad all over the country. Economy is very bad. The people in the control area of the Assad regime is suffering more and more. Unless this, when the earthquake happened, that time, started, we can say that the diplomacy of the earthquake started. And the Arabs, they realized that they have to do something to end the suffering of the Syrian people. We want also to end the suffering of the Syrian people. We fed up with the war. We fed up with all these things. But we want to build something which is a new, not to come back as if nothing has happened, no changes. If normalizing with the Assad regime is going on, it's okay, but let us have something. Let us have some change. Let us have some democracy there. Let us have some in constitution to change something to have the right of the people. In constitution to have the right of the women and the Kurdish people and the Syriac and the others. This is what we need to see. Otherwise, to have the normalization with the Assad government without changing, so as if we did nothing. 13 years, millions of the Syrian people refugees, hundreds of displaced inside this place, 100,000, and hundreds also thousand being killed. The country has been destroyed, and we got nothing. Then we will go back to the point, which is not acceptable. So we need to see some changing during this normalization. If normalization happening, all the Arab countries right now, they accept it. Okay, do it, but don't accept as it is. We have to make changes. And this is what we really need. In the northeast Syria, I don't know if many people know, we defeated the Islamic State, ISIS. Al-Raqqa city was the capital city of the Islamic State. Imagine, we defeated them. Our forces, Syrian Democratic Forces, defeated ISIS in the region. How many people we have lost there? Do you know? 11,000 of our women and young men have been killed while fighting ISIS. Do I fight ISIS and I defeat ISIS only for me, defending my people? No. It's defending all of you, the whole world. I was fighting on behalf of all the world in my region. And then at the end, we got nothing. So we need this support from the US administration. And we got now, they say, we will not leave you. We will stay there. Now we have about 900 U.S. troops there. They are still there. And we ask them to stay unless we get to a political solution for ending the Syrian crisis. We need that. We are, ready to negotiate with the Syrian government.
Can I ask, with regard to that, as far as I'm aware, there are negotiations taking place in Damascus between representatives of your authority and the Assad regime. What are the current state of those negotiations? Because as far as I have been aware, at least, the Assad regime has been completely inflexible in terms of granting any kind of promises of autonomy. And I guess the situation they're waiting for, and I guess this is a second question in a way, my sense at least is that what they're waiting for is they're waiting for US withdrawal of those 900 troops,
yes.
And then they think that they will get the whole thing back 100%. So yes. Maybe you can comment on
And this
that.
is what we're afraid of.
Yeah.
We're afraid that the US one day, they will decide to withdraw, and what would happen to our region? Before we have any negotiation or agreement with the Syrian government. Iranian militias, they will be very happy to come. Russian, the same regime. And Turkey. How many times Turkey attacked our region and occupied all the green area? Turkey wanted to create a safe zone all around, along the border. Is it a safe zone to displace the people, the original people, and replace them with the very Sunni radical group? Is it a safe zone? Actually, this green area under the control of Turkey has become a safe haven for the former leader of ISIS and Al-Qaeda. In my city, Afrin, the leader of Al-Qaeda are very free working, coming and going. Imagine. So if we leave it like that, Turkey will control it and will be happy to take it. Russia will be happy too. Syrian government as well, and Iranian, which they are waiting. So for that we ask it, please, we don't want you to stay forever in Syria. We know that. We are not asking you to stay forever. But we ask you to stay there until we guarantee the negotiation with the Syrian government and get something for our people's rights. This is what we need. Really, it's very important now. We are not against that Syrian government, Syrian to be ending this crisis. We are with that. As long as we have a crisis in the region, the whole Middle East will be in danger. Radical groups, they are coming, they are increasing, they come everywhere. So everybody realizes that it is a problem, it is dangerous to leave the issue like that. So they have to find a solution. So the radical groups, they started to threaten the whole regional country. The Captagon, for instance, they threatened the regional country like Saudi Arabia, Jordan, Lebanon, and so on. So they realized that as long as the mess in Syria is there, they will get a lot of problem. So the Arab countries started to, fix it, and they started to normalize with the Syrian government so that they can, solve the problem and do something. So we are not against to solve the problem. We are not against to end the crisis, but it should not be on the expenses of our people. The people who fought ISIS and the people who sacrificed, their lives in order to protect the other. As well as ISIS is still there.
So I wanted to ask you exactly about that, really, Sinam. From what we hear, and we don't hear a great deal in the media anymore, bless you, but what we hear is that ISIS is still operating, that there are still operations and killings carried out by ISIS, and of course you have the Al-Hol prison camp under the jurisdiction of Syrian Democratic Council, where there are, if I'm not mistaken, 10,000 prisoners of ISIS, many ISIS prisoners, many of whom are, of course, citizens of countries other than Syria. So maybe you could tell us a little bit about the current state of affairs of operations against ISIS. And I think in particular people might be interested to hear also about the type and mode of cooperation between your forces and the US forces also present on the ground in that area.
Yeah. Thank you for the questions. Really, in the region, after defeating the Islamic State of ISIS, we still have ISIS. We end ISIS militarily, geographically. That's okay. But still, we have very important and dangerous issues. The ideology of ISIS still is there. And we have the sleeper cells of ISIS who is activating and working and trying to re-emerge again, organizing themselves again in the region. We have 12,000 fighters, dangerous fighters of the ISIS in the prisons, detainee centers. 12,000. Imagine these people, if they escape, what would happen? Who is guarding them? Our forces. And I would like to thank the US also Army for their support, for the training, equipping these forces there. Really, we got some equipment, training, from the US Army, but it is still not enough. 12,000 in the prison. Last January, in the last year, 2022, they tried to escape. 200 of them, they tried to escape, and we could get them back, control them. So if the 200 of the ISIS leader, they escape, you will see them at the next day at the border of Mexico, maybe coming here. Yeah, who knows? Yeah. So we have to be careful about that. So who will guard them? We are guarding them. When the riots happen in the prison, we lost 124 from our forces in order to get them back in the prison. And they killed our people there, just in a very cold, blood, nothing. So we are the one that we guarding these people. As well as we have the Al-Camp Hall. Al-Hall of the camp, which holds about 54,000, the families of ISIS, children, women, men in this Al-Hol camp. Who is providing all these services for Al-Hol camp? We are doing autonomous administration. Our forces are guarding this. Last year, in Al-Hol camp, a man who is giving, from the Kurdish Red Crescent, providing help to Al-Hol camp, inside Al-Hol, he has been killed by a woman, ISIS woman, in the Al-Hol camp. So it's still dangerous. So still there we have two very dangerous spots, Al-Hol camp and the prisoners of ISIS. We have to solve this problem. We asked to have the repatriation for such people. Many of the countries, they started to repatriate from the whole camp, women and children, but none of country wants to get the fighters. They say, oh, keep them there. But it is not my responsibility alone to keep such a dangerous, fighters, whereas it is the responsibility of all over the countries. So what should I do? The place is still under threat. So this is the issue. For that, we say the presence of the United States, the US Army in the region is very essential now, unless we solve all this problem now here. And I will just say something. In Al-Hol camp, we have about 25,000 children who has been raised by their radical mom in Al-Hol camp. They became more dangerous than their fighters. So if they stay like that, since 2019 we have it. So imagine how many years now. The child who has been that time 12 years old, now he has been a man. So after still many years, if we don't solve this problem, we will have a new generation of ISIS coming out from Al-Hol camp again. So what would happen? So I think for that, it is very essential the US Army stay there unless we solve such a problem. Al-Hol camp, prisoners, and have a negotiation with the Syrian government to reach a solution, at least to get something. We are not against to have the stability in the region. We want it. We want the stability. But how can you get the stability if you have always the threat of ISIS in the presence are there? How do you get the stability if you are always having the Turkish shelling your region and your people, either shelling with the artillery shelling or by drone attack daily? So how can we have the stability? If you don't have stability in the northeast Syria, I don't think we will have stability in all over the region.
I think there's a point here which is worth stressing, Sinam, you made it, but just to really stress the issue that there is quite an astonishing cynicism, I think, of some Western governments, specifically in Europe, regarding the repatriation of their citizens. They take advantage of the fact that Syrian Democratic Council is not, of course, recognized as a state or quasi-state authority, which means the SDC can't insist, your citizens came here to fight as Islamist volunteers, now take them back again. Because SDC doesn't have that status, these countries are able to say, our citizens are now your problem. Mm-hmm. And as a result, you're having to look after these guys in Al-Hol. It's a completely ridiculous and very cynical situation. Yeah. We're a little bit short of time. We unfortunately only have a short session. So I wanted to ask you also, if I may, to talk a little bit about the internal arrangements of SDC. You mentioned it, but for example, the role of women, which is quite unique in terms of your area compared to others. Can you tell us a little bit about the internal administration in SDC, how that works and how it differs from both the Assad regime area and the Islamist areas controlled by the Turks?
Yes, thank you so much for that. You know, as you mentioned before, as the autonomous administration, it is not a state. It is not recognized. So whoever, when we asked even the humanitarian assistance to come to the region through the United Nations, they will not handle it to us directly. So they will give it to the Syrian government, and Syrian government should bring it to our region. And we don't get, you know, we get just a small, maybe sometimes very less from that. So we have I mean, we are besieged now in the area which is in the yellow color. It's about a third of Syrian territory. So we have from the Turkey is besieged, we don't have any border. From the Syrian government also same, sometimes we have, I mean, sometimes open, sometimes not, according to the political issues. We have some coordination with the Syrian government. It is a coordination only. And even the Kurdistan region, also from the Kurdistan region, we have some boarding. Now it has been closed. Al Arabiya has been closed. So we need a border to have some humanitarian assistance to the people, as we have 100,000 of displaced people in the northeast Syria. Yeah. So the system which is going on the administration of the northeast Syria, which is in the yellow area now, I can talk about it. As the administration of northeast Syria, we have like multi, as I said, mentioned religions and nations and so on. So we have there the institutions. Each institutions, you can see Arab, Kurd, Syriac. Each of them, they are working together. We have the system of co-chair. So we have the co-chair, like being the Kurdish woman with the Arab guy, or the Syriac woman with the Arab Kurd, and so on. So in each institution, we have all this diverse in the institution. This is very important for us. We believe in this diversity. We believe in plurality. This is what we want to see in the future of Syria. As well as I mentioned for the role of the woman, which is very essential. Now we have like a social contract. We can call it social contract. All the people, more than 5 billion people, they come together, they agree to this social contract, which we say that we have, for instance, 3 official languages. The Kurdish language, the Arab language, the Syriac language. So Syriac language, which is the Aramaic language, it is the first time in the history of Syria that you can find the Aramaic language. The people in the school, they can study in their language. The Kurdish, they can study in their language. The Arab, they can study in their language. Whereas in all the other part of Syria, you can't find that. In the control area of the regime, only we have the Arab language, which I like it. But as I'm not Arabic, I have to learn also my mother tongue language. So that time it is not allowed. In the green area, controlled by Turkey, we have Turkification. Turkish language, Arabic language only. So imagine. So this is the difference. When you deny the rights of the others, and you don't accept, only you accept your own, either religion or language, which is not acceptable. We are now on 21st century, where we have the democracy. We see the people in America, how do they live? They don't have, any problem. So why shouldn't we have the same thing? We need that. It is enough. We as a Kurds, I remember when I was a kid, I was not allowed to speak in Kurdish language, never. Even if I am in the school, I was in the high school, if my colleague is a Kurd, if I want to speak with her Kurdish in the break time, my name will be taken to the manager there, or they will be put my name with they say, why are you speaking? I will be punished. Imagine. So nobody can speak the Kurdish language. We only speak it at home. Maybe if they could prevent at home, maybe they can also do it. But even though we continued learning our language, we never, just say, okay, I forgot. No, it's my mother tongue. My grandmother, I know her, she doesn't even speak Arabic. She doesn't know. How can I ask, her to speak Arabic where she doesn't? So this is the issue. We have to accept it. Whether you like it or not, we have to accept it. Whether you like it or not, there in Syria we have the Kurdish people. You have to accept this fact, reality. If we want always to close our eyes on the reality, doesn't mean that it does not exist. It is there. So if you want to solve it, put your hand there, point at it, solve it, and we will be happy to live together.
So you're not looking for Kurdish separate states?
No. We, in our region, our project, it is not separate. It is not dividing Syria. And we need to live as a Kurdish people inside Syrian territories, but in a very democratic system, which I have my rights as a Kurd, my language, my political rights, my culture. This is very important. This year, in 21st of March, every year the Kurdish people, they have their national, like Nowruz, I think, if you know about it, Nowruz. It is the new year for the Kurdish people and the Persian and all these people. We celebrate it every year, So before it was so difficult to celebrate it. In the region now, in our region, people, they are celebrating the Nowruz, the Syriac Christian, Assyrian, they are celebrating their own also national days. It is very important. So we have the cultures and the diversity, which give us a very beautiful picture. In the region, which is under the control of the Turkey in Afrin, my city, after the earthquake, there are families of Kurdish people in the city of Jindeiris, if you hear about it, which is very influenced by the earthquake. They lost their houses. They built a tent. In the tent, they make like a fire. It is a symbol of the Nowruz. They lit a small fire. The military groups, very Islamist extremist groups, they come to them, this family, and killed 4 of them. 4 of them have been killed because they are celebrating Nowruz. They are not celebrating, just they are lighting the fire. So imagine, this is what's going on in the other region, under the control of Turkey. How could you accept it? If you don't accept to lit a small fire I am celebrating, how do you accept me as a nation? How do you accept me to speak in my language? So for that we said 4 people from one family, all brothers, being killed, it is a genocide. Whereas at the same time, Same time, I was invited to the White House to celebrate the Nowruz with the President Biden in the White House. So this is the difference. So what we need to see such democracy. Democracy means to defend my right as I defend your right. We don't want to see more genocide now. Never again. Finished. It is not the century that we have to kill each other like tribal, 1,000 years ago. Finished. It's done now. So never again for killing the people. Never again to have just only one party, political party, one religion, one language. That's done. We have to accept each other. Syria is a diverse. All the region in the Middle East, it is diverse. We have many nations. We have Arabs in Syria. I remember there, many years ago, we used to have in Aleppo city, which was there. I know that I have, Kurdish, Armenian, they were there. They came, they were survivors from the genocide of Turkey that time, Armenian and Syrian. And even Jewish. We have Jewish in Aleppo city. So they were a part of these people, of this nation, of this earth, this land. Why do you deny them? So all the region, it has been diverse, like Jewish, Arab, Kurd, Syria, Christian, all together. We should accept each other. As long as you are denying me, the war will continue. And so it is up to us, either to fight each other to the end of our life, or to live together, coexistent, to live together in peace for us, for our children, and for the next generation coming. This is what we need, actually. This is our choice. But the other choice will be different. That is up to them. That time we have to resist together. This is what can I say.
We had only a short time for the conversation.
Thank you.
I want, in closing, before thanking you, just to make one additional point. Looking at the map, which you can all see there, to your right, you can see also there's a strategic element to all this. The Syrian Democratic Council, simply by being located where it is located, is playing, in fact, a vital role, which is that it is blocking the advance of hostile forces, to whom we don't even need to mention the name, getting from east to west. It's not a solid wall, because right in the south, you have the Abu Kamal border crossing controlled by the regime and the pro-Iranian militias. But nevertheless, it is a very significant barrier. And it is for that reason that both Israel and Jordan, among other reasons, are so keen that the Syrian Democratic Council and the authority should continue to survive and to flourish. So for that reason, as well as for all the other reasons that you have outlined so well, Sinam, we certainly wish for continued success for that. And I'm told we apparently have another 10 minutes. So whilst I'm delivering my ringing closing remarks, no, you're stuck with us for another 10 minutes. Perhaps we could then take some questions. I'm not sure if we have the system for that, for flashcards or so, or if somebody wishes simply to put their hands up, and perhaps I can bring them in. So you are Bassam, but I would. Yeah, but can we take someone from the audience also, perhaps? Yeah, sir, the front. Go ahead.
It looks like, according to the map, you have a number of oil and gas fields. Is that a useful strategic bargaining chip with the Arab part of the country? And are you, not being a recognized country on the international stage, are you able to produce and export and sell the oil and gas right now?
Yeah, thank you. Yes, the northeast Syria, it's actually the region which is agricultural region. I can say the basket food of all over Syria comes from this region, northeast Syria, as well as the gas and oil, yes. But most of the oil fields in the northeast Syria has been destroyed by ISIS when they control it. We got now many of the oil fields. We started to restore it and rebuild it and get use of it. Otherwise, how can the autonomous administration pay the salaries for all the people there? We use it for local use. We don't export it. But local use, that means some traders I will be just very open. Some traders, they come and take the raw oil and take it, some of them, they take it to the regime control area, Syrian government. There they will be, they have the refinery, and they do it. And some of them, they take it to the regime control area by the Syrian, the green area, under the control of Turkey. They will take it also. So we see that this oil, it's not for only the people of the northeast Syria. It is for all Syrian people. This is what we believe. But now, as you say, it is a very good card for us to negotiate with the Syrian government about that. And this is what we need to do, actually. But still we have, for exporting and for manufacturing all the oil fields, it's very difficult because, you know, there is a sanction, the US sanction on the Syria. And the oil, our region has been exempted from the sanction unless oil. Oil is not exempted. So we are not able to export it or to do it, only to use it for the local use for our people to manage it. Yeah.
Okay. Ron, right? That's what you have the mic. Go ahead, please.
Thank you. So I have two questions. My first is, we've heard that ISIS was destroyed, eliminated a few years ago, and now it's back. So was it actually destroyed in your opinion? And if it was destroyed, how did it reconstitute itself? That's my first question. I'll just let you answer that.
So how do the ISIS reconstitute itself, you mean?
Yeah, after being destroyed, as it was in 2019.
Yes. Yeah, it is a very important question, really. You know what? We destroyed, as I mentioned, we defeat ISIS military and geographically. That's right. But I mentioned the ideology of ISIS, which is the most dangerous. You know, it is still there among some people, yes. But ISIS is starting to realize that they should reorganize themselves again. How? They are getting use of the economic crisis which we have in our region, in all over Syria. So this economic crisis, which make many of the young people lost their work and job and so on. They don't have anything to live on. So the ISIS sleeper cells, they start to recruit. They start to recruit young people in order to, just these people, maybe they don't even believe in it, but they want to work to get some money to live on. So they start to recruit the young people, and so that the ISIS now again reorganizing themselves. This is one. The other one reason, some ISIS sleeper cells coming from the Iraqi border, which is another issue we face. So this is very important also for us to how to control it. Iraqi border, it's a long border. The other one, some of them, they come from the Turkey border, unfortunately. So they are sending to us, to us, Turkey, in order to weaken the autonomous administration there so that they say, oh, it is a Kurdish administration, so they have to destroy it, which is not true, of course. So in this way, ISIS is starting to reorganize themselves. Even there is a recent happened, ISIS women, not inside the whole camp, outside, in the place which is there is Zor, Raqqa, and all these places, started to recruit some women, again, according to their ideology. So the women, they know that the woman, she can recruit her children also. So in this way, they are starting many, things they are doing to reorganize themselves again. Yeah.
We have time, I think, for one last question. So yeah, we have the mic, please.
Well, you haven't mentioned the Russians. What now is the role of the Russians?
Yeah. Yes, Russians are there, exist in Syria many years ago, and still they have in our region also. We have Russia. Imagine this small area, which is the yellow area. We have Russian forces, Syrian forces, government, American forces, and even maybe some Iranian militias, and our forces. But who is administrating all the region? We are administrating it, none of them. Russia is there. In 2019, if you remember, when President Trump wanted to withdraw from the region. And that time, Turkey come and occupied this in between the yellow, Ras Al Ain and Tal Abyad. So he occupied this area, which is in the middle of the yellow area, in 2019. That time, we asked the American, please do something not to allow Turkey to control all the region. We couldn't hear, that time, unfortunately. So the Russian came to us and say, okay, I can come to the region because they were threatening to occupy Kobani that time. So we say, okay, come and stay here so that the Turkey will not allow, will not allow Turkey to come in. So for that, the Russian, they are there that time to prevent Turkey to have any occupation. So there is an agreement, Turkey-Russian agreement and US-Turkey agreement. Both of them, they say we can make ceasefire so that Turkey will not allow to occupy more region. Still the Russians are there, their forces, but we are the one that controlling everything. We have a strategic, till now, a good relationship with the American US there. Not only troops, even the US official, like diplomacy people, they are in the region. And what we need, even if the US, they withdraw from the region, we hope that we still continue to have a strategic relationship with the United States. This is what we like. And we hope that we can do it.
I think that's probably a good note on which to conclude. So once again, thank you very much to Sinam for taking the time.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for everything.
Thank you. I appreciate that.